What is going on, everybody? Adam here with eTrailer. Today we're working on water pumps, but specifically we're working on the Seaflo RV freshwater pump. You're probably replacing your water pump, so this one has the same exact footprint right here as the one we replaced before. So even if you're going from a 3 gallon to a 3.3 gallon, it's going to have the same footprint. Everything's going to connect up just the same. This one was a 12 volt system, so all you really need to do is run a ground wire and power wire, but the wires are going to be there since you're replacing the pump. This one's going to push out about 3 gallons per minute, and it's going to give us about 45 psi. The pump that we took out was a 3 gallon per minute pump. The one we put in, 3 gallon per minute pump. We really didn't have a whole lot of issues with that. We liked the amount, and we really just didn't want to go through our tank that quickly. So that was good, but we did upgrade from a 40 psi to a 45 psi. And you'd be surprised what 5 psi does. So right now, like, this is like perfect for cleaning off dishes and stuff. Plenty of pressure, and I really like that. But the main thing I'm concerned with is the pressure in the shower. I like showers. I like the high pressure, especially when I am not really gonna take a long shower. I just want to make sure we get plenty of pressure so it's at least enjoyable. So let's compare it. Before, literally it just went up and it didn't even hit this little screen. So let's see if 5 psi gets us up there. Okay. It's not really like hitting it, and then coming and spraying down, but it's getting there. So it's definitely an increase, for sure. Let's compare it to a couple different pumps. If you want to stick with the 12 volt system, you can either go with the 3 gallon per minute or the 5.5 gallon per minute. So that's what this one is. And there are going to be some that are going to have a little bit more of a PSI difference. But the 5.5 gallon for this camper, we only have one faucet here, one in the bathroom, and then a shower. It's a little overkill. It's going to be mainly for the bigger ones that you have an extra faucet or maybe even an extra shower or whatever. Definitely not for the smaller guys. And you will really kind of go through your water pretty quickly. So if you are off grid, 5.5 in a small camper, you're going to go through that tank. Typically smaller campers are like 25 to 60 gallon tanks. But when you get to the big rigs, where this is probably going to be your best option, they have like 100 gallon tanks. So you definitely want to think about that. I think for this camper, 3 gallons per minute is perfect. And then the PSI is just whatever you want to choose. But if you do want to get something in the middle, you might have to convert it over. You will have to convert it over to 115. So we do have some pumps that are 3.3 gallons per minute, but it is going to be 115 volt. You just need to convert it. But for this camper, I would just suggest that you get a 3 gallon per minute, pick your PSI. I like 55, 45 works, but stick with that 12 volt system. That's just for me. A lot of you guys are wondering if these are going to be self-priming. Well, any option that you choose on our website are self-priming. A lot of you guys ask how to do it. Literally just hook it up, give it power, and turn it on. It'll do it all on its own. But if you do have one that you don't know if it's self-priming or not, hook it up, turn it on. If the water gets there, you're good to go. But everything we give you guys on our website are all self-priming just because it's so much easier. This pump has 3 chambers in it, so it's going to reduce the amount of cycling. But in my opinion, we replaced this one with the one that was in here before, and this one is so much quieter. Like, it doesn't cycle as much, but even when it is cycling, I really have to listen and try to hear it. So if you're wanting a really quiet pump, this Seaflo one is almost completely silent, and it's not going to wake up your kids at night. Literally, it's so much quieter than just the flow of water that's going. And even if we turn it off real quick, it'll run for a tiny bit. And now it's done. So literally, I had to feel it just to make sure that it was off. This thing's extremely quiet, and that, I like that. In my opinion, I think that the Seaflo 3 gallon per minute, 45 PSI is perfect for this camper. We have a shower and 2 faucets. We don't get any pulsing or anything like that. The shower pressure is good to go, and it's quiet. I really like that. And with this one, we had this one on there yesterday. It's a Hydromax. So this one is 55 PSI, but it's a little bit louder. Honestly, it's not that much of a difference. Just the jump from 40 to 45 was enough. If you want more pressure, you can go for it, but it is a little bit louder. But in my opinion, I really like this one. It gets the job done. I have the pressure I want. There's no pulsing, and it's quiet. So you do have options, but if you want my opinion, grab the Seaflo 3-gallon 45 PSI. If you're performing maintenance, maybe just fixing something or just replacing your whole entire water pump, you got to find out where it is. What I found best to do is run it and see if you can hear it. We want to put it a little bit farther away from the kitchen sink because typically it's around that area. So I'm going to go in the bathroom here, turn on the pump, and then run a little bit of water to see. So I don't know if you can hear that, but that is what we really want to kind of figure out exactly where it's at. They're typically near the kitchen. So kind of start there, and you really got to use your ears to really find out where it's at. Usually it's behind a weird hidden little panel. So we were following the sound. We thought it was right next to the hot water heater, but it wasn't. It was actually over here, and again, right next to the sink. So step one, find the pump, check. Before we do the swap, we want to see what we're working with before, just to give us a base to see if we're increasing our pressure. So let me turn this pump on. So let's turn this on. And a decent amount of pressure. It almost goes up to the vent, not really, but not the best. Now for the sinks actually have a decent amount of pressure. Definitely enough to clean some dishes, but the problem really is in the shower. That's what we're really trying to solve here, and that's why we're really replacing this pump. Before we do anything to the pump, we need to cut power. You can do it a bunch of different ways. You can just go and pull a fuse. You can maybe just flip a little breaker on the inside, but what I'm doing, just to make sure everything doesn't have power, just in case, is we do have a battery shut off. So I'm just gonna turn that off, just to make sure that there's no power running that pump whatsoever. To get all the water out of the lines, if you have a valve like this, it's gonna be very, very easy. So all we gotta do with this valve is just kind of turn it like this. It's gonna cut off the water source, and then it's gonna bring it down to this tube, which is just gonna suck in air. But if you don't have one in here, we do have one. So if you are replacing your pump, I highly suggest doing it. But if you don't have one on your pump and you need to take it out right now, just make sure to have a couple little bit of towels and stuff. You'll have a little bit of water trying to come back, but we don't have to worry about that. So now that I turned that valve, it's gonna be taking in air from this tube. So now all we really need to do is turn on the faucet and let it run. And it's gonna take a little bit of time, but you'll see some air pockets start to come through. Pressure is going to go down. It's going to start spitting for a while. I'm just going to let this run for a little bit to get all that air out. And in a little bit, yeah, see all that air. So it's going to do this for a little bit. Just let it run until basically nothing comes out but air. It's a little tough to see in there. It's kind of a small space, so hopefully we get it for you. But I'm going to go ahead and just take this thing off the ground. There's just 4 different screws, just so it's gonna be a little bit easier for me to access all the different hoses and such. So it is extremely tight in here, but basically what I'm gonna do over here, this little white, little 90-degree, there's just a little nut on there. I'm just gonna loosen that and that'll come off. And then on this side, I'm gonna loosen this just because our new pump does come with this piece. So I'm gonna disconnect this and that side, and then of course cut the wires. But super, super tight, so I need to get 2 hands in there to do it. And once all of our connections are cut and all the wires are disconnected, this whole thing should come right out. We want to take these caps off the end. You can throw those away. We don't need them. And all you got to do is just kind of twist them counterclockwise because they got threads on the inside to take them off. So throw those away. We do get these here, which we're not going to use these today because this isn't how ours is set up. But if you did have hoses going in on the sides and you're not going to use the threaded portion, you can use these, but I'm not going to. So you can do what you want with those. And then of any type of water fitting, we do want to have some thread tape. So just grab that when you grab your pump and take into account where you're going to be twisting it. So we're going to be going tight like this. So I want the end to be on this side, just so when I'm threading it on, it's not going to get all bound up. Really just need to go around a couple different times. Try to keep it as tight as you can whenever you're doing it. It's a little tricky, but once you get around that first little round around, then it's kind of a little bit easier. It's not really going to pull out. So just do that on both sides. And what I like to do is once I'm done, I just like to kind of push down on it just to kind of see those threads, just so it doesn't get all bound up when I screw it in. So I want to do that on the other side. Now we want to figure out where the water's going. So there are going to be some arrows. So the water's going to go in here and out over here. We want to have this little pre-filter before it enters the pump. So right here on the inlet. So we can go ahead and take that. I'm putting it on here just because it's really tight down there, and I don't really feel like doing it when I'm down there. So just go ahead and rotate this around. Get it to where you want it, and we're good to go. Hardware is not included with the kit, but of course we're replacing a pump, so just take the hardware from the old pump and use that. Also, one thing I noticed is that the footprint of all these pumps are the same. So if you are replacing, most likely it's going to have the same exact footprint, as you can see right there. So you can reuse those holes, and of course, even if you go with a larger gallon per minute pump, it's still going to fit because the mounting is going to be the same even if the pump's a little bit bigger. So you don't have to worry about it not fitting. Another thing that we're doing, which I don't recommend using, is just these twist nuts. We just have a lot of different water pumps we're putting in here. We're just testing out to see which one's going to be the best for this customer. But what you want to do is take some heat shrink butt connectors, since you're going to be installing it permanently. We have those here at eTrailer. Grab those. It gets the best connection you can get. It's really tight in here, so I'm just going to put it up, connect everything up, and call it a day. So I'm just going to do that off camera just because it's going to be impossible for me to do it and you guys see it too. But it's pretty straightforward. Put it in there, screw it down, and then put the lines back on exactly how we took it off, just in reverse order. And we are done. Everything's mounted down. We have everything connected. All I need to do is just turn this like that to allow the water to go through. Now that we are good, we can go ahead and flip the switch and give everything power again. Now that the power is on, we have one more switch right here to turn on the pump. And you can hear it running. So now we just want to check for leaks, right? So just look down there, make sure all the connections we just made are good, because everything else was fine. We didn't have a leak before. So as this is pumping up, sit there and wait for a little bit. And then what we want to do, since there's no leaks, we can go up here and we want to get all the air out of the line. So a little bit of air, a little bit of sputter. And then this right here is normal just because it's only a 3 gallon per minute pump. And the pump is self-priming, so we don't have to really worry about that. So now let's go to the back and make sure everything is good. No water in these lines. I actually already had this open, so that one's good. And then with this, we are clear of air. So we have no leaks, it works, and all the air's out of the line. So we're basically ready to put this panel back up, and that'll do it for a look at the Seaflo RV Water Pump.